Hi guys, Oluchi here. If you're watching this, then it means that you not only are part of the Verindo family, but being tasked to figure out or to help a team figure out an opportunity that lays on the horizon. Probably your job to better understand the macroeconomic indicators look like, to understand what the competitors are doing or not doing, to understand what the customers want, and ultimately to use all of these four things to better understand the best way to position this project for disruption. If that sounds like you, then this series of videos will be well worth it. Over the next few sessions, what we're going to try and do is just rapidly walk through how the innovation toolkit can be of value for you as you go on this journey. Session one is going to focus largely on how do we ideate around a problem worth solving, how do we conduct market research from a secondary perspective, looking at the macro and industrial um, indicators, and then how do we do this again for focusing on the customer, and finally, how do we tie all of this together in a go-to market. So that would be session one, two, and three. Okay. Session one will focus on the design thinking and as well as the macro analysis. Okay. I can switch back to my screen. Okay. All right. You see, I'm just going to hope that you edit this part out and use that as an intro of some sort. So, session one. On the journey to conduct market analysis, one of the key questions that tends to come up is what exactly are we trying to solve? What problem are we trying to solve? You rapidly realize that before you can look at the country fundamentals or industry fundamentals of any project, any problem, you have to have some basic idea of what the problem is and a very basic idea of what a potential solution could be, a high level hypothesis, if you may. Now, what we found is that everybody goes through this in their heads. Very often, people will sit with their friends and just come up with, hey, I think we should solve nutritional problem in Nigeria. And then someone else will say, hey, my dad is a fish farmer and fish has a lot of um, nutrition and protein in it. So therefore, yeah, let's build a fish related business to solve nutritional problems. Done. And then they begin the market research. So for us at Verindo, where the journey really starts from is following a disciplined way of actually ideating, of testing the idea that you have to even first of all establish two things. Number one, do you have an idea worth solving? Number two, do you have a potential solution that would be able to achieve impact and scale if executed properly? Please note that this first ideation session, the goal here is not about accuracy, it's about direction. The goal here is not to get tactical. It's about to understand from a 50,000 feet, what are we even doing? One of the tools that helps you answer these two critical questions is known as the design thinking approach, or specifically in our context here, the rapid design thinking process. Now, to conduct an RDT session, oh, if we, for those of you who have read the book Design Sprint, which by now all of you should have read. And if you haven't read it, please send me a message. Um, you know that one of the first place you want to start from when conducting a design thinking and RDT session is articulating the problem statement. Getting team alignment around the problem statement is critical. And so therefore, the very first goal for any potential RDT session is, can we get alignment on what our problem statement is? And what is a good problem statement? A good problem statement is something that answers the who, the what, and the why. A good problem statement answers the who, the what, and the why. For instance, if I want to solve, again, using my example of the nutritional issue with fish, if I say that my problem statement is um, a lot of Africans lack nutrition. A lot of Africans have nutritional deficiency because there is not enough fish in the market, and so they need a product that they can buy. They need a product that they can buy at less than $10. That is not a good problem statement. The reason for that is because in that my problem statement, I not only talked about who I'm referring to, I not only talked about why, but I was also talking about how, and I was going into solutioning. You want to make sure, and it takes after a few practices, it gets a lot easier. You want to make sure that you're hyper focused on the problem. You want to remove biases around the solution when you're defining your problem statement. So a good problem statement talks about who is facing the problem, what exactly is the problem that you're facing, why does this problem exist, and how much of an impact has this problem brought so far. So if I was to take a stab at this my fish example again, I will probably have an early problem statement that reads something like this. 30% of 30% of Africans between the age of 18 to 35 face acute nutritional deficiency due to an absence of protein in their diet. And this has led to an increase in um, in youth mortality of X% over the past 5 years, year on year, over the past 5 years. Now that problem statement is a lot warmer, and it's something that is a lot more actionable because it is specific, it is measurable, it is actionable, and it gives you an idea of the magnitude of the problem. It tells you clearly who the person is, it tells you what they're facing and why that problem exists. I think the key takeaway here is that if you cannot correctly articulate a problem, you cannot solve it. So before you call a team into a design thinking session, you need to take a stab at articulating the problem statement and get the team, so that the first activity the team does on the brainstorming call is to take a stab to sign off on what that problem statement should be. Okay. Now, in terms of, so after the problem statement is identified, the next important thing tends to be sense checking it. This problem statement we have here, is this really what we want to solve for? or rather, is this an idea that is worth solving? Again, the goal here is direction, not accuracy. So here you want to really ascertain, you want to get team alignment on, should we go ahead building out, conducting extensive research for this particular problem that Oluchi just mentioned, regarding nutritional deficiency, or do we want to tweak it and or iterate it? And largely, what tends to happen here, I think we need an entire session for design thinking. Well, what tends to happen here is pretty much the team sitting down and being very clear about a few things. Number one, what what does what does success mean to the team? So what kind of outcomes are you looking for? All right. Hey, wait a minute. What are the people on this call? Oh, hi. Okay. Hi. What does Can you please tell me that you still hear me? Nobody's speaking.
Yeah,
Oh, awesome.
I can hear you. And then you can actually share your screen.
I can do what?
You can share your screen.
No. I will share my screen at the next one. At the microphone.
Yeah.
At this one, I don't have stuff to share. All right. Okay. Right. So you've gotten the problem statement, right? You now want to shortlist, you want to ideate around a problem that is worth solving. Now, to do that within the session, what you want to do is lead the entire team through a very quick exercise that gets team alignment. And the first side of this exercise is getting a sense of what success means to everybody else. All right. So how I would do that will be pretty much on a whiteboard, on a mirror board, or whatever, getting everybody to say, you know what? Okay, you see the problem statement there. Um, we've we've said we're trying to do something because of 30% of youths between the age of this and this and this that are facing nutritional deficiency issues that has led to whatever. Okay, what does success mean to you, CC? What does success mean to 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 praise? What does success mean to all of you in terms of this problem, if we're able to solve it? Then the step two that I would do um, would be, of course, everybody lists what success means to them, and then we have a conversation, yeah. But then the step two that we would do would typically be around um, having conducting a 5 why analysis. The 5 why analysis just basically says, if we've all listed what's important to us, can we then ask ourselves, why is this important 5 times? Sorry, before the 5 why analysis, what I would do would be then to get everybody to vote. Yes, that's the step where we bring it all together. So we all list our stuff, we come together, we vote, just to see which of our points would be the highest rank. And the technique to use here is negative voting, where everybody has to go through the points, but only vote for that which you think should leave. All right. And so what we end up with is one concise perspective of what everybody feels that should be a great outcome if we attack this problem. And then the next thing would be to conduct a 5 why analysis on that outcome. Now, how does this work in practical terms? Let us assume everyone has come up with 5 different perspectives of what success looks like if we attack this one problem statement that we've aligned on. And let us assume that that outcome was us saying that Success for us is when perhaps we can move the needle on nutritional deficiency so much so that I don't know, so much so that we can reverse the trend of, I'm just paintballing here. We can reverse the trend of um, youth unemployment, yeah, by 3% over the next 20 years in the country. For some reason, we landed on that. Now, what the 5 why analysis will do will be us looking at that outcome and asking ourselves, why is this important 5 times? Why do we want to reverse the trend of youth unemployment? Whatever answer we get, we write it out. Why do we want to do that? Now, the theory here says that when you ask yourself this why is the 5 times, you get to the bedrock of the root reason why you want to do something. Now, 9 out of 10 times, if you go through the 5 why analysis, 9 out of 10 times, you will end up with a root cause that when you look at it, when you benchmark that root cause against the initial problem statement that you started with, you would realize that your problem statement has evolved for the better. So this simple technique is how you can rapidly go from number one, getting a problem statement and aligning the team around it. Number two, stress testing everybody's perspective around the problem statement. And then number three, um, evolving your problem statement in a way that is much richer and much more detailed to make it a lot more relevant to solve. Now, the other objective that I mentioned um, is the second objective from this RDT sessions revolves around the solutioning. Now, typically, again, if you read the book Design Sprint, all I've really done, the design thinking process typically starts with empathize, and I have skipped a lot of that process. Please read the book. Please read the book and understand lightning talks and um, how might we notes during lightning talks. So I skipped a lot of that um, and just gone to the crux of it, right? But let us assume you're done with the empathize phase and you've consequently articulated your problem statement and the team has aligned and you've done all of what I just said. Um, where you'd want to be at for the solutioning is really around um, so thinking about potential solutions that can help with a problem. You want to start with, and this is the analysis phase of the design thinking process, the quick analysis. What you want to do is start with what's called a comparable solution analysis. All right. The theory here says that you can't really you innovation doesn't exist in a vacuum. All right. If there's anything I've learned in this my life, it's that there are no unique problems. um, Problems exist all around the world, just in different contexts. If you think your problem is unique, you just haven't traveled wide enough. And so, what the comparable solution technique forces you to do is to actually think outside of your current constraints. And so that's it's as simple as blocking out a bit of time. It could be in the same RDT session. You could say for the next 20 minutes. Um, now that we're clear on the problem statement, now that we're clear on what what a potential outcome would look like, let's quickly see what kind of solutions um, how are other people doing this in other parts of the world. And that's literally, it's up to you guys. It could be a 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes sketch. It could research, right? To see for this problem, how's it been done in I don't know, in Mexico, in Canada, in wherever, all right? And with this, with this perspective, very often a lot of insights come around. Um, and yes, so from a solutioning perspective, you would start with comparable solution analysis, which is a quick research, and document what you see. It's always very insightful. The second aspect of solutioning that is critical is now it's really around ideation. And to help the ideation conversation be strategic and focused and very fast, there are a few techniques that are helpful. I will only I will only speak to one of them. Again, please read the book Design Sprint and or Bug City if you want to know more. But one of the techniques that tends to help with the ideation part of the solution is, okay, it's a technique called Crazy Eight. And what we're saying here is, okay, at this point, I know the problem statement. I know I have an idea of the kind of crazy things that people are doing out there to solve this problem. Now, we want to just have a quick idea of how we want to approach our solution. And so for this, the Crazy Eight technique just basically says, can you lead the team to run through 8 different solutions in 8 minutes? A very difficult task, but what we've seen happen is that the theory here is that your first idea of a solution to any problem is never your best. And that's why the Crazy Eight technique is very powerful. And out of all the ideation techniques out there, I always preach this. If you can do it, it's always very impactful. Because what it does is it forces the team to go beyond to push the boundaries of their imaginations. And how you do this is just basically have a stop clock that has a countdown timer that has 8 minutes on it, and you ask people to come up with, if it's a physical RDT session, you want people to fold a sheet of paper into 8 places. To encourage them to have 8 sketches of a potential solution. Now, please note, you can do this whether your project is a software, a service, or it's a physical, it doesn't matter. The sketches are not necessarily mock-ups. The sketches are things that represent you sketch it out. So all you're doing is asking people to sketch out what is in their head, all right? And how that works, even if it's a line, draw a line from left to right, it doesn't matter. As long as that line means something to you and in the context of the problem and the solution, then it's important to us, all right? Um, Usually after the first 3 sketches, team fatigue tends to creep in. And so you want to encourage people to just let their motor neurons take over and let them just sketch. And then afterwards, the team can share and talk through their 8 sketches. Some teams that have done this in the past, when Google was pioneering the design sprint approach, actually filed for intellectual property. They filed patents during the Crazy Eight sessions. It can be very powerful. You've done well. And of course, after you've done the Crazy Eights and teams have shared, there's a whole process of, shortlisting and aligning. Again, I won't go into that, but the bottom line is that with that, the team can come up with a solution or with a direction of a solution that works. With the 2 objectives I just mentioned, if you walk away from your RDT, understanding the problem statement, understanding a problem worth solving, and then having a pretty strong idea of what a solution can look like, then I regard that as a win. Because at that point in time, you're now ready to sit down and conduct your extensive market research. Okay, that's it for the RDT. I will now proceed to talk about market research, how you kick off the market research, secondary market research, particularly the macro and industrial piece. At this point, I think I should pause this here to see if any of this is even recorded.